Last week, we talked about action, doing things in the world and being willing to be a part of that. Today, we want to layer on top of that the idea that part of what we're doing is raising this collective consciousness, that by acting in the world, we are, in fact, 1 million people marching on Washington for civil rights is a part of what shifts consciousness. So does sitting in meditation. Deciding to be one of those voices, whether it's in a spoken word, whether it's writing a piece, an op-ed piece, whether it's talking across the dinner table with family members. But this work begins in consciousness. It begins in the consciousness that we have and who we see ourselves to be, who we decide we're going to be, and what we're going to do with that in the world. When we are conscious of who we are and that our voice makes a difference, we become someone who not only sees the vision of a life that works for all, but also seeks to be it themselves. We have to live it and breathe it, and we have to use our gifts and consciousness to shift the collective consciousness, or nothing changes, right? Nothing changes. We just get more and more and more of the same. Or more importantly, we get more and more and more of where the attention and intention goes. I remember as a kid, I was, 8, maybe 10, something like that. I was already reading National Geographic. I was part of the Ranger Rick Society, Junior Ranger, right? I was all about the animals and the environment. And I remember reading the story that said Lake Erie was burning. Some of you remember that. I was like, what? How can a lake burn? Well, it was burning nonstop because there was so much pollution and so much that had gathered in a particular area, and it had, spontaneously combusted, got hit by lightning. I don't remember that part of the story, but it was burning uncontrollably over a long period of time. At Lake Erie today, you can boat on it, swim in it, and fish in it. Why? Because a bunch of people said, this is not okay. We believe that we can make a difference. We believe that this can be different. And we are going to start speaking and acting and being about that. The same thing happened in the Chesapeake Bay. I don't know if you've ever read any stories about when the first settlers first came here, and the teeming amount of wildlife was mind-boggling, especially those who came from Europe, where they had been living for thousands of years. So wilderness didn't exist, doesn't really exist very much in Europe at all. And the teeming amount of wildlife, unimaginable. The passenger pigeon would take all day for a flock of them when they were migrating to pass over a cornfield. It would be as wide as a cornfield, and it would take all day. Do you know how many of them there left? 0. The Chesapeake Bay, when I was that age, was toxic, and a lot of the parts of it were considered dead. Today, it's a beautiful place for sporting, for swimming, sailing, boating, fishing, and the wildlife has, to some degree, returned. People remembered what it was like, what it could be like, but they imagined what it could be like. And they spoke about it. They used their gifts and their consciousness to shift the consciousness around it. In the science of mind, we call this collective consciousness that we're all part of. We call it race consciousness, not meaning racial, ethnic consciousness, but the human race. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, that set of beliefs that we collectively hold. And we hold them as human beings, we hold them as cultures, we hold them as religions, we hold them in families, right? Which is very similar to the individual beliefs that we've held our own lives, our whole lives, that are what is outpicturing, right, in our own lives. And we have learned how to change consciousness for ourselves, haven't we? You heard Marcia talk about it. We go to classes, we give our service, we get involved, we get engaged, and we begin to see our lives change. Because we are doing something differently, yes, but also because we have learned how to look at the beliefs that we have or the beliefs that we have by osmosis taken on, and we've been able to say, no, that's not the spiritual truth about me. No, that's not the spiritual truth about me. That may be the product of some past experience or some human idea, but that is not the spiritual truth about me. And what I've noticed in the last 10 years, as it seems as though the world is burning at lots and lots and lots of different ways, what I've over and over and over and over again found myself saying is that is not the spiritual truth of humanity. This is not who we are. This is not the spiritual truth. We know how to be one. We know how to take care of ourselves and each other. We know how to live peacefully. We have done it and we have proven it over and over and over again in so many different ways and places. And we know the spiritual truth of who we are, that we're here to give our gift, express ourselves, and experience the very nature of life to its best and highest possibility as us. And of course, if we want that for us, and we are in fact one, what is the extrapolation of that? We must, of course, not because we should, but because it's the only place to go with that spiritual imperative, we must, of course, want it for everyone. For everyone and for all beings everywhere and for all of creation. So we are learning here at CSLDallas, and we are practicing using our spiritual tools, not just to shift individual consciousness, but to deliberately and intentionally shift collective consciousness. We do that by using our tools, by creating new mental equivalents. Our global vision is a new mental equivalent of what it means to have a world that works for me, that works for all, that works for creation. And we learn that we have to speak it and affirm it into being. Just as we speak it and affirm it into being for our own lives, we actually have to speak it and affirm it into being for the life of the whole. I haven't always spent the last 10 years speaking and affirming into being the mental equivalent that I'd like to hold. You don't have to raise your hand, but you might think about it. How many ain't it awful and isn't it terrible and I can't believe they're doing it and this will never be fixed and it'll never be changed and it's running away with us and we're in trouble and it's gonna, oh my God, we're just gonna fall off the cliff. I'd rather just be about my own life. I don't want my peace disturbed. I can't do anything. There's nothing for me to do. I'm just gonna take care of me. And what are we speaking and affirming into being? We're the same. Oh, it's them. It's those people. It's those rich people and those corporate people and those political people and those people and those people and those people and those people in that situation and that. But we know better. We know, actually, that all of that is just the effect of the consciousness, the causal consciousness that not only do we as individuals carry, but that we have carried collectively. And as we bring it to awareness, we can say, no, that is not the spiritual truth. That is not how people who know who they are behave. So let's remember who we are. Let's affirm and bring that into being. We build an inner awareness of that. And then the really hard work is to accept it, that it is so, even when you can't see it. Right? This is exactly what we do in our own lives. Accept that it is so, even when it's not that way yet. Ask, believing you have received, and you shall receive. Right? That's the mindset of accepting it. And its work. Right? Spiritual work and its work. So we say, I say, let me just own it. I say, I don't know whether it's true or not, but I say, look, you don't have to get to 100%. You just have to get to 51% in your own consciousness. If you can get to 51% to a positive expectation, you're already on the way. You're already making shifts. Now, if you can get it 70, 75%, ooh, man, train's starting to go, right? But sometimes that feels like a very long way away. So let's just get to 51%. In the collective work, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the 100th monkey syndrome, right? 100th monkey, there was a big story, there was a big book written about it, and then of course it was debunked as it was not really a story, it was actually not a real story, it was actually a myth. And out of that story came the idea that you need 10%. You need 10% of a group of people to think, believe, and act or behave in a certain way, and you begin shifting consciousness. Unfortunately, over the last 6 or 8 years, we have seen the truth of that through Facebook and social media and the divisiveness of the way things have been put out there. Yes? Does it? And it didn't take more than 10%. So I looked this up because I thought, now I've always heard this was a bit of a legend, kind of an urban legend. Maybe it's not really true. Oh, no. They now have studies over the last 10 or 15 years that show that critical mass in sociology and in humanity, the critical mass is 10%. It takes 10%. So my question to me, to all of us, is do I want to be part of the 10% that's making a difference, or do I want to be part of the 90% that thinks there's nothing to do, or there's no way to fix it, or there's nothing to change? Do I want to be the 90% that's just about me, or just trying to get by? Sometimes I do want to be part of that 90%, right? And that's okay. That's okay. It's okay to say that, right? We're not perfect. We're doing the best we can. Right? And we have to continually invite ourselves into that, just as we have to do that for our own growth, don't we? Don't you just want to, couldn't we just watch a movie? Do I really have to look at this thing from my childhood again? Here it is in my face. Yes, actually, at some point, yes. So I don't know how many of you read Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. It was published in 2000, and it's a book that describes the tipping point as the moment of critical mass, the threshold, the boiling point. And he notes that ideas and products and messages and behaviors spread just like viruses do. I want to infect the world with love. Yes, infect the world with we're all one. Infect the world with there is a way to do this. That doesn't mean giving up, but it does mean, maybe a little more maturity, a little more spiritual awareness, maybe a little more inclusivity, maybe a little more, we really can figure this out. So we've been really inspired with our initiative to be a force for good in the world by Lynn McTaggart's work, if you are familiar. And Lynn McTaggart is an award-winning alternative medicine healer and investigative journalist and internationally recognized spokesperson on the science of spirituality. She now has 6 or 8 books out. And on her website, I love this. It said, many spiritual healers, Buddhist monks, Qigong masters, and shamans have used their thought to bring about the changes in themselves, in others, and in the world. they have taught us that reality is not fixed, but fluid or mutable, and hence possibly open to influence. McTaggart is constantly exploring this from a scientific point of view, and she conducts experiments called the intentional experiments in the field of human consciousness on the power of the mind to influence reality. Now, as we have said a couple of times, we were part of one of those experiments back in the, 2008, 2010, somewhere. One of her experiments was to lower the crime rate in metropolitan areas. And so we participated in that intention experiment. And the crime rate in Dallas dropped by 13 to 17% in the next weeks and months following that experiment, and that was corroborated in the cities around the country where they had done this, all of us doing it at the same time. And so that is the idea of this collective work that we do, that it's not just my work, but it's all of us joining together in that collective energy, that collective idea that we can, in fact, shift consciousness. And when we shift consciousness, that in fact shifts physicality. It shifts the world. So she writes this: the power of intention multiplies depending on how many people are thinking the same thought at the same time. What I think about is how many people are thinking the same thought as they get mad at all the Facebook posts that they don't like, and they say, ain't it awful, this is horrible, and now they're mad back. This is right, and then we're just adding to the same. So the idea of collective consciousness is to join with people at the same time or not who are thinking the same thought. Now, all of this work is built on new science and the quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and the quantum field. It is an extrapolation of what's happening in the physical world, the subatomic world, and looking at, there might be something to think about or see that might have actually be what's happening in this collective consciousness work. We talked last week about banding together physically, marching, being supportive, doing those kinds of things. But collective consciousness work is banding together in consciousness. It builds on the idea that we are all one, actually. And as we know from entanglement and different aspects of the quantum field, right, which is the matrix, if you so will, of the space-time continuum. It is the fabric of the space-time continuum. Everything and everybody is coming out of that quantum field. We are, in fact, scientifically all one, not just spiritually all one. And that we have lots of people who are doing so much work about the recognition of consciousness, that there's recognition that consciousness is also embedded in the fabric of the universe, and it is revealing itself at many levels all the way through self-awareness and self-consciousness. And ultimately, that consciousness is causal. Right? We get that from medicine and from psychology and from sociology. Study after study after study after study shows that consciousness is causal, that mind can, in fact, as the Buddhist monks and the Qigong masters and the shamans have said, that mind, in fact, can impact. And one of the most interesting pieces of this whole thing is the idea of the observer effect. So we're not going to get into that. I am going to do a workshop in May or June or July, somewhere along the line, on spirituality, science and spirituality. And we'll dive a little more deeply if you're a nerd like me and you want to know about this. We're not going to talk about all that, but we are going to say that out of these double-slit experiments, one of the things that was kind of brought to the surface was this idea of the observer effect, that we actually observe reality into being. I really want you to stop and think about that. we observe reality into being. Well, on the one hand, I can observe reality. I can observe reality into Lake Erie is burning. Now I'm observing reality, and if I keep observing it that way, what do? I hold it in place. But what if I observe reality from a different point of view? And I observe it in my imagination, in my intuition, and I observe it in my meditation, and I observe it in my spiritual mind treatments and my affirmations and my visualizations. Do you see all of those spiritual tools? What we're doing is we are observing reality into being. And we are not fooled by the outer effect. Those of you who are taking my morning class, you know what we're talking about. We just covered this. So since 2007, Lynn McTaggart has done 39 U.S. and global intention experiments. 35 have statistical, identifiable results for positive change. That is not bad. Intention appears to be something akin to a tuning fork, causing the tuning forks of other things in the universe to resonate at the same frequency. We are all one, actually, right? And the quantum field is an oscillation of waves, right? And those waves are particularizing into moments of specialization. And when that is tuned through consciousness, you see we are observing the particularization into a new form, a new way. Because we are observing the possible, not the impossible. The power of mass intention may ultimately be the force that shifts the, that shifts the tide toward repair and renewal of the planet, of racism, of discrimination against LGBT, trans, women, Hispanics here in the U.S., the list goes on. The power of mass intention may ultimately be the force that shifts the tide towards everyone having homes and enough money and enough food and enough support and enough medical care and enough to have a full and rich life. The mass intention. Now, Michael Quinn Patton wrote in a paper that he put out, he talked about the complexity theory. The complexity theory shows that great changes can emerge from small actions. Remember that a movement in consciousness is an action. Don't ever forget that. A movement in consciousness is as much an action as a spoken word or a march or a letter that you write. Change involves small actions. Change involves a belief in the possible, even the impossible. Moreover, social innovators don't follow a linear path of change. There are ups and downs, roller coaster rides along cascades of dynamic interactions, unexpected and unanticipated divergences, tipping points, and critical mass momentum shifts. Now listen to this. Indeed, things often get worse before they get better. As systems change creates resistance to and pushback against the new. Sound familiar? And so what do we do, right? What do? We never give up. We never give in. We do not give in to fear, doubt, apathy, or indifference, just like we don't do it in our own personal lives. Do you see? It's exactly the same things. But we don't do it in the larger life as well. We commit to be the change we want to see in the world. This is not a platitude. I'm going to be in the change. I'm going to be love and peace, except for when you annoy me. And then I'm not going to have anything to do with you anymore. Okay, this would not be the definition of radically inclusive. Be the change you want to see in the world means walk around, speak, affirm, act, engage, and set the intention that we behave like spiritually mature human beings. As human beings in the world today, that we behave that way and that we show up that way, that we show up. So not only is it the collective million voices, but every voice, every treatment, every action counts. Every one that we are doing is adding to that shift in momentum, in consciousness. We have to add ours, and it's all in how we do it. Do we do it with joy, with positive anticipation, or do we do it with angst and I'm going to beat the wall down? So I have invited a fabulous person from our community to present to you today. Hunter is going to present a spoken word piece. Now, Hunter is in the advertising industry, and he was the voice of Jordan in doing a lot of advertising work as he was a 31-year-old pregnant female. But in the last year, he has transitioned, and he has this beautiful presence about him. Jamie, I'm going to do a handheld mic. Candy, can I just have a handheld mic up here? I'm going to set this up for just a minute. This is the yellow mic. I'm going to set this up for just a minute because I'm not necessarily running the same circles that Hunter has been running in the last 20 years. So he's going to reference a person named Post Malone. Post Malone is an American rapper, singer, songwriter, record producer, and actor. He gained distinction and acclaim for his blending of the various genres, including hip-hop, pop, R&B, and trap. I had to look that up. He's also going to reference Iverson, an American former professional basketball player nicknamed The Answer. He played 14 seasons in the National Basketball Association, was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2016. Iverson is regarded as one of the game's greatest scorers, ball handlers, guards, and one of the most influential athletes in American sports, other than Hunter's personal favorite, Michael Jordan, who he has had the privilege of working with. So you will hear that name. They all come very quickly at the beginning, so you want to pay attention because I had to ask, what are you talking about? Or let's say, who are you talking about? So, so unfortunately, or fortunately for Hunter, Hunter is going to be moving to Austin shortly to finish, to work with his advertising career. So I snagged him before he left town. Hunter, will you please come up here? Thank you.
Y'all, this is my first time in public doing spoken word, and I love that it's here at CSL. This safe space, thank you for giving me this safe space. And I love that you did your homework. This is for the kids. Yes, I want to be that light for trans joy. This is what I stand for. I'm not here to fight, and I'm staying in Texas because Texas needs my love, my light. It'd be too easy to go to New York or LA. I'm staying in Texas. All right, so here we go. Yo, Post Malone, you the white Iverson? Well, guess what? I'm the trans Jordan. You looking at a champion. I got dunks by the millions. I'd be like Mike to the power of Jackson. I may be a rookie, but I ain't no freshman. I'd be winning life like a 6-ring goat, man. Ooh, this is me at my best. Them scars on my chest, that's my trans Superman S-man. I be saving lives like mine. Your boy's more than fine. I'm fixing to fly and bust through this Dallas, Texas sky. I be planting seeds of love and greatness. I see it in you and you and you and you. That's the power of love times a billion, boo. There ain't no other explanation. This is God at his best, man. Anything less than faith leaves you second guessing. I am gay, but I got salvation. Living in Texas, trust ain't no vacation. But queers like me, man, we're gonna bust this evangelist dream. We're on God's team. Holla if you want to join Lil Nas X in his fantasy. Whoa. I I ain't gonna apologize for being queer and Christ-like. I get my art from my big, big heart, and there's no stopping or popping the love that I feel when I'm 100% real. Ain't no dim this light tonight. I am king, and y'all left wondering, dang, what is he smoking? Ha! Nothing but truth. This is me and my love, grounded me in my Dallas, Texas roots, yes. But what y'all gonna do? Wanna be ballers, shot callers, lesbian U-haulers, hunter haulers, anything but smaller versions of yourselves? What you ain't gonna do is dim your light, cause baby, you are burning oh so bright. I'm here to say it's more than okay to be trans and gay, that's right. We're just jealous cause we out here living and dancing like Madonna's Holiday. Trust it's gonna be more than okay. Ooh, lean into love, release the pain, paint with your brains. Co-creating with the universe is insane. We're gonna get paid. We're so good, we're cool like shade. Ooh, dang. Your boy's thirsty. Hey, Beyonce, pass that sweet, sweet lemonade. Ooh, I'm refreshed. I'm ready for next. Peace out, Dallas. I'm headed for capital love in the ATX. Yes.
Brilliant and beautiful. Brilliant and beautiful. Thank you for saying yes. That's how you be the change you want to see in the world. Margaret Mead says this: never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. That's what we're up to here. And we are going to shine our light bright. So it is.